So I'm gonna preface this video and say that I apologize for the recording on this. I was very sick when I recorded it, and frankly, it already took me a long while to record all of it, much longer than what you would think. Uh, and frankly, I don't have the patience to go back and record all of it. I I have a day job, and unfortunately, it does eat up a lot of my time, and that is partially why this episode has taken so long to put out. Similarly, I was planning on recording the entire games footage, multiple, plural on this one, uh, but the laptop I am using since, as some of you saw with my GoldenEye run, that my computer very much ate it after. I say like a week after recording, my computer quit. I managed to get all the recording, all the footage off, so that is safe, and I will be doing the follow up video eventually. Uh, there is a problem with it because it is about 30 gigs of footage, and I do not have that much space. I think as I'm recording this, I might have like 5. uh, but I did want to get this out. I did get the footage recorded for this. And like I said, I do plan on following through with the GoldenEye thing. I have to figure out how I want to do it. Unfortunately, I think the best way of doing it is just going to be an episodic kind of thing, where I review each level individually as opposed to do one giant episode and then maybe compile it later. For those who would rather wait till the full thing. While I am trying to build a computer for my recording specifically, as some of you who might be in the know would know, uh, prices are outrageous right now. Absolutely outrageous, and is likely going to be at least a good couple months, if not a year or more, before I can actually get all the parts thrown together just to get it running. And while I could buy a pre-built one, I kind of don't want to do that. I won't lie that I have a preference for quality over quantity, perhaps too much so. And I apologize that is a lot of why my content has been quiet lately, because of my own desire for perfection. This is probably going to be the least perfect thing. But I do want to get that out there. I do also want to talk more seriously as well. There's a fellow YouTuber that I have been watching, and he does a segment he calls Buddy Time. Some of you might know him as Big Gaming 64. I did ask his permission, and he gave me his blessing to do a similar segment. Really, I just want to talk to you guys. Things have been hard on me. Things are hard for you guys. I want to reach out, and I don't want it to be like a psychological thing, really, per se. But we all go through hard times, and it's always appreciative when you feel heard. With that said, let's continue on to the video. So I've been wanting to talk about this for a while now, and this isn't my normal content, but it has been something I've been wanting to talk about for quite some time. In that, why are there three timelines in Ocarina of Time? And why that matters. And I've had my own long running theory, and this is probably going to be the first part of what is going to be a very long, overarching series of videos. I do want to start us off at the beginning of the Ocarina of Time timeline, and that may not be where you're expecting it to start. So, as any good Ocarina of Time story starts, we start with a boy without a fairy. As many of you know, this hero will fail to save the Deku Tree from the parasite Goma, save the Gorons from King Dodongo, and questionably cure a fish of heart parasites. But that's where our story is going to detour, because I don't want to talk about the standard gameplay timeline. Instead, I want to cover the events that we already know from the Fallen timeline and sprinkle my own thoughts in there as well. After Link returns with the stones, he returns to Zelda fleeing from the castle with Ganon in tow. It's at this point that Zelda throws the Ocarina of Time to Link, and Link heads to the Temple of Time to retrieve the Master Sword. But I think we already know what happens here, as it's implied by Rauru in the games that this was a decision to hold him for 7 years. And I don't think he was in the Fallen timeline. And that's where the problems begin. See, after Link acquires the Master Sword, he's free to wander around Hyrule once again. However, this time he is a child and not an adult. And that causes some distinct problems, as wandering around Hyrule as a child is very limiting. And while you could argue that a child Link could acquire many of the items from the adult Link timeline, such as the hook shot, there is one thing he can't acquire as a child, and that's the Song of Storms, which would be required to access the bottom of the well and thus access the Shadow Temple. And so I believe that after scouring Hyrule and turning up nothing, that our hero travels to Termina and in his journeys acquires the Song of Storms there. And being inexperienced at this point of time, unfortunately, Link is unable to stop Majora. And instead of stopping Majora and destroying the moon, in this timeline, he is forced to weaken Majora and escape, which, with the power of the giants, is just enough to push the moon back. Not to its original position, but out into space. And while not a true victory, was a learning lesson for Link. And upon returning to Hyrule, he was able to continue his journey. And still being a child, this changes how some of the things play out. As upon his return, Ganondorf has taken the opportunity in Link's absence to take over. Not completely, though. I believe it is in his absence that Ganondorf would have visited the Forest Temple and the Water Temple. And while trying to complete the bottom of the well, Link catches word that Ganon has made his way up to Death Mountain. And the hero that he is, Link could not sit by and let Ganondorf mistreat his friends, and thus began to climb Death Mountain behind him. During that time, Sheik happens to witness Link playing the Song of Storms for the Windmill Man. With the help of the Gorons, Link is able to acquire a Goron tunic and follows Ganondorf into the Fire Temple. Unfortunately for Link, when he enters the first chamber on the left, it is not Darunia, but rather Ganondorf that meets him. While Link has dealt with similar forces in the form of Majora, Ganondorf transforms in the middle of battle into his beast form, and unfortunately, Link passes away. In this timeline, Zelda unfortunately hears word of this indirectly from Darunia, and in a last-ditch effort, enters the Fire Temple herself under the guise of Sheik. She is successful in retrieving the Ocarina of Time from Link's body, but Ganondorf is stuck in his beast form. She travels back in time to before Link got sent on his journey and resets everything. Present me again. Uh, I hear you typing in the comments, and hear me out here. The Ganon in Ocarina of Time, the one that you would normally fight inside the ruins of his own castle, I don't think that that's the same Ganon as A Link to the Past. In the user manual for the game, it is said that while he is a thief called Ganondorf, that when he touched the Triforce in the Sacred Realm, that the Sacred Realm transformed, and it's implied to be around him specifically. That said, we know from Ocarina of Time that that's not what happened to the Ganondorf from Ocarina of Time. And knowing that A Link to the Past is several hundred years after the events of Ocarina of Time, I truly believe that this Ganondorf, as well as all subsequent ones, with the exception of one, is a new incarnation of Ganondorf entirely. For clarification, that version of Ganondorf that I don't believe is a different incarnation is the one from the original Legend of Zelda game for the NES, as well as its sequel, which we don't talk about. That said, I believe that that is an incomplete recreation of Ganondorf and not the original. It is here that we once again join Link at Kokiri Forest, but things are different now, as Zelda has returned with her memories of the fallen timeline and is working with Rauru to guide Link along his journey. They also agree that the best way to prevent Link from dying at Death Mountain would just be to seal him away. Sheik ends up playing the Song of Storms herself for the Windmill Man, thus creating what seems to be a paradox. And unfortunately, in his absence, Ganondorf is able to succeed in conquering Hyrule, turning the entire land into a figurative hellscape. Zelda's plan is successful, though, and Link is able to stop Ganondorf, but with a great amount of sacrifice. And whether through the power of wisdom or a moment of learning, Zelda realizes that the best way to handle Ganondorf is not through the hero, of which she was so reliant on, but rather inaction. As Zelda finally realizes that the entire events of the adult timeline were completely preventable by her, no less. That if she hadn't have sent Link on his journey in the first place, then Ganon would have never had the opportunity to rise into power. And so she resets it one more time. What she doesn't foresee, though, is that Link, with the heart of a hero, still manages to carry on his quest. And in a selfless action, she tells Link to live his life. With the quest already done, Navi's purpose is done, and she ends up leaving. Link, not knowing what to do, travels outside of Hyrule to Termina, and with more time on his hands to try to figure things out, manages to not only relearn the Song of Time from memories of his past self, but also managed to save Termina this time, destroying the moon and Majora with it. Not much is known, though, after Link's return from Termina, but upon return ends up joining the Knights of Hyrule. And after years of hard work and training with them, ends up getting a mansion somewhere out in the mountains. Unfortunately, this is short-lived, and Ganondorf, controlling Zant, decides that the first person they need to get rid of in their conquest is Link. And so, using a portal from above, they drop forces into Link's mansion directly, forcing Link to flee with his family. Zant's forces chase him all the way back to Link's hometown, which looks drastically different, and they get ambushed once again. It is here that Link makes a choice, and knowing that he was the main target, sends his wife and child into the woods, just as he had when he was a child, sacrificing himself in the Lost Woods, where his spirit inevitably becomes a Stelphos. Link, now burdened by guilt, can't let his spirit rest, and upon his own child's call to action, becomes a major guiding force in teaching him, and thus concludes the life of the hero of time, finally able to be put to rest, both in body and spirit. But that's not where the story ends, as Link's actions are heard far and wide across the galaxy, not just in this timeline, but in all timelines. And in the next video of this series, I want to follow up on one of those galaxies, so please stay tuned. And while once again this is not my normal content, if you like the video, please like and subscribe anyway. I like to do a variety of content, and this is just one of those varieties. Thank you, and see you in the next video.